It's easy to get down about the beginning of the year. You were enjoying summer so much, the beginning of the school year snuck up on you, but the one thing you can always get stoked about is setting up your room, or your cart, or your corner, or your closet, or your trailer, or maybe they put you in a hole in the ground in the basement somewhere. My room being a mess makes me feel like a mess. When I can get it organized, get it straightened, make it look cool, then it makes me feel better to start the beginning of the year. This video is intended, I have no plan for this, right? Because I mean, the kids are here playing. I got a new fancy Promethean board up here I want to talk about and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. But I thought I would walk you through what it looks like to do the setup. And I realize I'm like a month behind everyone else. Like Smarty Style's been back to school for like a month or something like that. Nonetheless, I thought I'd walk you through like what it looks like and what some of my plans are for the year so you can see that execution. I have another one of these videos, which I actually think I'm wearing the exact same shirt and hat as last year. So that video is available. I'll link it up here. And if you want to go back and see some of that other setup, like people always ask me how I do the chalkboard art in the front of my room, how I made the shelves. I have all of those videos are already on the channel and you can check those out. But it's the weekend before school goes back, so there's no time to waste. So I'm going to jump right into it. The most important thing to know before you start setting up your room is this. Not everyone's artistic. Not everyone is a woodworker. Not everyone has a steady hand to paint. Look, everyone has some sort of limitation that kind of gets in the way when you're thinking about creating your room. Like one of my dreams is to have curtains for my windows because the sun shines in the afternoon. It makes it hard to see the whiteboard or hard to see videos that I put up on the whiteboard. So I'd love like big curtains to just close, but I don't know how to sew. So I just like never get to that one. But I just doubled down on my strengths and I'm going to show you a few cheats first. In years past, this wall up here, I have all these little empty squares up here. They were supposed to be painted picture frames. I was going to get pictures, I was going to put them in there, and then it just didn't work out because turns out every picture I take is like this and not like this, and I just didn't. It was a pain to try and find pictures that were like this that I liked, so whatever. I'm going to paint over that wall. I'm not using chalkboard paint because that stuff is like I think it's like $14 to $17 for a quart for one of the small cans of it. So what I'd rather do is I bought black paint. I'm just gonna roll black paint. I put a strip of painter's tape up here on the bottom. You can see this blue line going across just to give me like a reference line to make sure that it looks even. And I matched it up pretty much with the bottom of the whale wall here. So the whole top of the wall, all the way up to the ceiling on this side is gonna be completely black. And then I'm gonna go back and hang make a collage of different pictures, different items that I want to put up on that wall, and then I'm going to write on the wall in like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna use marker yet or if I'm gonna use some kind of like chalkboard marker to label all the things that are up there. I mean, you'll see what I'm talking about in a moment, but first I have to paint that wall. I got Glidden paint and primer in one, which is gonna like, and then I use a roller that's just smooth to semi-smooth, right? I don't get the real smooth one because I just don't have very smooth walls in my room. They get roughed up, I'm not really sure how. And I put it on the roller and then sometimes I stick a stick in here. Look, another quick pro tip. You could buy the little stick that goes into the end of the roller so you can do it. Or just take a handle off of a broom or anything else in your house. They all fit into the end of these rollers so you can just roll it up there and it's a lot easier and cheaper for you. To the paint. All right, now while I'm waiting for that to dry, part of my class is teaching the history of hip hop. And so I have this large boombox on the wall here. Long story short, my door went through my wall, there was a big hole, and so rather than just painting the little part of it, they painted like the whole bottom part of my boombox. And so I'm just gonna go back and fix that up just so it looks nice and neat. It's not gonna look perfect, but look, perfect is the enemy of good. And so nothing in my room ever looks perfect. But we're working on a time crunch here, right? And so sometimes when you're working on a time crunch, you have to really separate yourself from things looking perfect because no one's gonna look at it the same way you will. You might have that one kid that looks at it, but the heck with that kid, man. Like everyone knows you get like 10 minutes to set up your classroom in the beginning of the year anyway because you have to take PDs and stuff like that. So while I'm waiting for my wall to dry over there, I'm gonna finish painting this up real quick. All right, it's the next day. We were here until probably 8 o'clock last night working on stuff. If you don't have children yet, count your blessings, because when you have children and you bring them to school, you have to like take someone to the bathroom or get someone a snack or fix the Wi-Fi. And I love them, and I realize that this is really like a struggle for them to be here. Like, it's not easy to stay in my classroom, but I gotta get this stuff done. So here's what I'm working on now. I am taking these white laminate shelves and I'm gonna attach this plywood with liquid nails and with a nail gun onto the front of these laminate shelves to just kind of make it tie in with the other plywood that I've used in the room and to make it look a little nicer. And it's gonna hide, I have these lights back here and they're kind of unsightly and I don't like that you can see the cord, so it's gonna hide a little bit of that. Once I have it up, I'll put polyurethane on it and it'll look nicer than it does. And I think it'll just like tie it into some other things that are in the room. Has zero educational value, but like I keep saying all the time, most of the things in my classroom have no innate educational value, but they look cool and it makes the kids feel safe and it makes them want to be in a space that is like sort of like meticulously gone over. So I'm gonna put these up now and see how they look. I just want to say that I should totally be wearing safety glasses while doing this, and if you're not wearing safety glasses, you're breaking some kind of rule. But I forgot my safety glasses because I had to bring 50 other things up to my school, and well, I live a life of danger. All right, so this actually turned out pretty good. So I just have 2-inch strips of plywood that I cut myself, but you could get them cut at Home Depot, and I just nailed them to the front of this using a little bit of liquid nails, and it came out, it like beefs them up, it hides my lights really well. And I like the way that it came out. So now I'm just gonna put maybe 2 coats of polyurethane and like, look, this is not a maker channel, but if you wanna do this, by regular water-based polyurethane, because the oil-based stinks, and the water-based won't make my room smell too bad, I put that on, I let it dry, probably less than an hour because the air conditioning's on in here, so it's really making the air dry. It just cleans it up and makes it not look so dull and makes it look like more of a finished piece of furniture rather than just like some old plywood that I put up there. One of the things I think makes your classroom look really tightened up is when your cords aren't just hanging from the wall. And so I have a lot of loose cords around my room, and what I want to do now is just tighten them up. I took this little hint from Casey Neistat, who makes all of his cords run parallel. It makes it easier to follow the cords back when you need to. So if you have to work on something or unplug something, or you're not sure where a cord came from, it's easier to trace it back to its origin. And it just looks cool. So to do this, I use these little cord things. They're like $1.50 at Home Depot. You put the cord in that large spot in the center, and then just put a screw through it or a nail through it into your wall. All right, what the life partner is working on here is I have this collage in my room that I get a lot of questions about, and what it really is every Friday I do something called Weird Friday. I just realized I was looking at myself and not at the little thing. I do something called Weird Friday where I really am just trying to like tease the creativity and the interest out of my students by introducing them to something that they might think is weird, and then having a conversation around that, and then hopefully sending them down some sort of rabbit hole to investigate that. So to sort of make this blah gray frame pop, we're gonna do it pink, and I don't have a lot of like bright colors in my room. You know, even though HGTV, you always like to use the term a pop of color. They always like to say clean lines also, but we're going for a pop of color. So while that's drying, I have one more thing that I want to put up on the wall, and that is this piece of plywood. The desks rub against the wall all the time, and there's something called chair rail that you can get, but we dream on a budget, and I had plywood left over, and it kind of just goes with aesthetic of my room. So I'm gonna throw this plywood up, and then what that's gonna do is just stop the desks from rubbing a hole into the wall, and I'll throw some polyurethane on it. Maybe it lasts a while, maybe it doesn't, but you know. And there it is. Just one straight line. Sometimes doing things yourself, it doesn't look as pretty, but it just saves you a lot of time. You don't have to ask 5 different people to try and get something done in your room. And so I just do stuff myself all the time. And if you don't know someone, maybe ask another teacher or trade off with them. Maybe they have a skill that you don't possess, and you the same way. Like you can do something to help them out that they don't possess that skill either. So the next trick is cleaning up this back wall. So I think I'm getting a new whiteboard this year, but I haven't heard back yet. So while I'm waiting to hear back, I just put my old whiteboard back up there, even though it doesn't really erase nicely anymore. And I've said in earlier videos that I really, really like clean whiteboards. And then I'm repainting it this blue color. I just went and bought my own paint from Home Depot, and You know, the reason is because it used to be like this awful baby food color, and now it's like this kind of like slate blue, which is a little bit more calming in the research that I've done anyway, but it just gets dirty over the year. So I just did a real quick cleanup, and actually Marley's gonna do it. This might need to get redone if I get the whiteboard, but that's fine because I'm getting a new whiteboard, so I'm more than happy to like freshen this up again. And then I have this one other cool thing that I'm working on right now, which is this. So with this new setup, I like that you can see my light ring back there. With this new setup of the Promethean board, there are a lot of wires involved. Plus I have all these wires that come down back here from my speakers and stuff. I typically just tack those to the wall like I talked about earlier, but there's this hub of massive wires and crap. So what I did was, I'm taking one of these floating shelves. If you see in my other videos, I have all these floating shelves that I built. I have a video on how to build floating shelves, and then I'll link that, so if you want to check that out. And then what I'm going to do with one of them is I'm going to turn this one into a cabinet. So this is just the regular shelf, and then I put a hole in the top right here so that the cords can go in there. And I also have a cord hole right here that I cut, and then I'm going to make doors for the front that just have a little magnet clasp like you would get in any kind of like IKEA furniture. It'll just give it a place to have all the cords inside of here so that they're not all over the place and messy. I really subscribe to the fact that I think if your room looks calm, looks organized, looks peaceful, you can instill calmness and peacefulness in your students just by having your room look a certain way. Now, it's like 8:40 at night. We're still going strong here. Last year, I got some water damage in my room. The water came through the ceiling when a pipe burst in the winter, and it ruined this quote, which you can't really see too well, but there's an Anis Mojgani quote from his poem, Direct Orders. I'm gonna erase that, and there's a quote that I wanna put up there next by Henry Rollins. So I'm gonna just paint all of that black again, and then I'll show you how we're gonna design that and put it all up there so that it looks nice and neat and clean and all that stuff. And then the not so secret wife is painting all of these bookshelves. Not painting all of them, rather, we're painting the outside of some of them with some vibrant colors to just kind of like give a bit more color to the classroom. And then Mars over here cleaning desks with paper towels. This is a table that I have in the front. I use it to like do group work at and have kids that like have a hard time sitting down. They can stand in front of the table. And so I'm gonna just repaint this real quick. It just looks nice when everything's like kind of freshened up. And I already have the black paint on anyway. We're using a lot of black paint. I'm feeling like Elvira, but we're gonna do this now anyway. Actually, I think the not so secret wife's gonna do it for me. Day 3. Tomorrow is actually the first day of school, so I'm in here hustling, trying to get stuff ready, and I'm not 100%, but here's how I feel about that. I feel like it can be a work in progress as the year goes on. There's a bulletin board that I'm not finished. I'm not done completely with this chalkboard up here. I have some stuff that I'm going to get rid of that I still haven't gotten rid of because I need a hand moving it out of my room. But the last thing I wanted to talk about real quick was how I do these chalkboards up here. I have this in the video that I've posted before, but what I do is instead of just writing it up there, I used to project lines from lined paper up on my wall and then just write it in my own handwriting. And that still works, but this time I wanted to use a different font. I use a website called PicMonkey, and PicMonkey allows me to, in sort of real time, if I hook up my laptop to my projector, I can shoot this up on the wall and I can design where I want the words up on the wall. I can pick different fonts, and it makes it a little bit more fun of a way to kind of like do that sort of thing, especially if you don't have nice handwriting, or if your handwriting's too small, or if you're nervous about placement, like you don't want to start your sentence too far over and have it end at a weird part on the wall. You can just put that up there and then map it all out before you trace it. And that's it. That's most of the stuff I have done now. I still have ongoing things like this black space up here is going to have pictures on it with chalk labels that point to each of the pictures telling what they are. I have to finish this little cabinet. So I had one of my floating bookshelves I turned into a cabinet to hold all of these wires so that they're hidden and this doesn't look like a big hot mess. And then I attached all of these wires to the wall so that they look all nice and neat. But the other side I'm having some problems with, and I got to fix that tonight. And then I'll repair that in the morning and then paint it and it'll look all nice. I still have to fix this mess up here on the top of my divider organizer thing. That's usually where I put all of my plants. And then I have this ugly empty shelf up here too. I really made an effort to declutter my room this year and get rid of a lot of stuff that I was holding on to just because a student gave it to me or because my kids gave it to me. And that just leads to tons of like random crap being in your room. Oh, and I'm redoing, so this board behind me is all the Weird Friday stuff that we learned throughout the year. And it's really just people that I think just live for a living, as Buddy Wakefield says. So I'm gonna paint this black again, and then I'm gonna put, I have a saying, I have a couple different sayings I'm toying with, but that's where that will go. And then I need one more poster for up here, but that's on order. And then I got to finish this bulletin board back here. But that's all of it. Everything else is fairly organized. I'm going to do a classroom tour soon. Like, that will be the next video that I actually work on, so I can show you all the ins and outs as soon as this stuff is done. I think that's it. Peace.